Thank you all guys for having me here at Idea Center. I'm Joshua Lively, aka Josh ThaSauce, and I'm the marketing coordinator for Brilliant Labs. So we do have a space over there. You might have seen our logo, it's like the purple and teal. And I was here, like Van Beek said, at Idea Center before, the very first Idea Center. We had no space, we had no computers, no nothing. So that's really fun. But I'm basically here because my education is in marketing. So like I went to MBCC after high school. I went to Harborview. Anyone here from Harborview? Dang, that's tough. Let's go. Okay, nice. So yeah, my Harborview gang. That's where I went, and I graduated from there in 2018. And then I went to MBCC Community College, which is kind of an unorthodox choice. Well, it was at least in 2018, because everyone was pushing me like, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you going to university? Why aren't you going to UMB? I think university is great. I think UMB is great. I'm just saying, I was like, I don't think it's for me. They're like, but you're university eligible. And I was like, and that's one big part of my story is I'm like, well, I don't think I need to do it. So I went to MBCC and took business administration, and my specialization was marketing, which is a 2-year program, and you can actually do 2 more years at UNB if you want to get your full business degree, which is really cool. So it actually ends up being cheaper, and you get the same degree after the 4 years because you do 2 and 2. So in that program, and the instructor there is amazing. And during that time, I was able to start working part-time for Brilliant Labs because of my video editing skills that I practiced here at Idea Center and practiced just on my own personal YouTube channel. So they hired me on part-time, and I worked for them ever since pretty much. I graduated from MBCC, and they said, we'll hire you on full-time. So yeah, and now I'm here today. Like, I don't even know. It's going to be like 2 years later. That's crazy. Time's going to fly. Oh my gosh.
How do you have the name?
Pardon?
The sauce.
Oh, Josh ThaSauce? So that's a funny story. I was in Idea Center, and I was like, dang, I really want to do a basketball YouTube channel and play basketball and play the basketball game and edit videos. And I was like, I need a good name because I was a corny, nerdy, cringy grade 9 kid and made, I'm not ashamed of this. In grade 9, my YouTube channel was called The Stealth Microchip. You know what I'm saying? It made 0 sense. It was a random name generator. And I was like, if I want to do basketball, like I need to make a new name. So I was like, what do I do? One of my favorite like inspirations, so I don't really watch anymore, but as like a kid and like growing up like from middle school to high school was Jester the Laser. Anyone know Jester, like 2Hype and all them on YouTube? Yeah. So like Jester the Laser was my guy. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, and then I had a buddy be like, yo, why don't you do like Josh the Boss? And I was like, no. I was like, I don't like that. I don't know. And then I was at home that night, like I had like chicken strips and fries, and I was like putting some Frank's Red Hot on there. And I was like, I literally hot sauce. And I was like, sauce rhymes with Josh, right?
Yes, it does.
and then I was like, I think that rhymes. And then I was like, sauce, basketball, all makes sense. And I was like, and I at least stood up. I was in my room, and this was like grade 12. And I just go down the hallway to my mom. I'm like, Mom, it's Josh ThaSauce. That's what it is. Like, you know what I mean? And she was like, what? And then I just left. So anyway, so that's how I got my name. I guess we'll just get right into the video editing portion unless there's any other intro questions you guys have for me. Also, can we get an F in the chat for this laptop right here?
Yes.
Because this was the one when I was in Idea Center and was going to get hired by Brilliant Labs. I talked with like Jeff Wilson from Brilliant Labs, and I showed him my really ugly video editing software. Like I was using, anyone familiar with Share Factory on the PS4? Share Factory? I see someone nodding. Yeah. You can basically take your clips that you save and edit them with like 30 cuts. I had like these terrible 480p videos, but I showed them to Jeff, and I like pitched him my idea, and like I had a vision, and he ended up like helping me out and like providing me with my first camera. And one of them was this laptop. So this thing is like 5 years old now, and like now like I can't, like this thing booted up in 3 seconds. This was like taking like 15 minutes. So I want to have like a funeral for this thing because it's kind of sad because it's like a legend in the game, but still, it has good stats, I guess, but it's just too old, like 5 years old. That's rendered so much 4K stuff and been sitting overnight rendering, so.
It was my first time where I realized we needed to include parents more in the journey of the Idea Center, because when you got home, yeah, tell that story.
When I was in Idea Center, like I said, I pitched to Jeff Wilson, who like I now work for, and I was like, I want to edit videos, do this. He was like, cool, and he was like, can you give me a list of like what you think you might need? And I was like, what? Okay. So then I like go home and I email him like, hey, this $300 camera might do, and this $800 laptop might do, And he's like, Okay, cool. How about these? And then he sends me like a $1,200 laptop. He sends me like a $800 camera at the time. And then he sends me like, you know, a Blue Yeti mic. Like, how about these? And I was like, what? I guess so. So then I just said, yeah. And then literally, I think it was like a couple weeks or like something later, there was like a bunch of boxes that showed up here in the class. And like, they got me to open it. Van Beek filmed it. And I'm like, holy, and I just started bawling my eyes out because there was like $2,000 worth of stuff, like for me. You know what I mean? Like, it was just insane. So then I go home, and Mom's like, what is going on? Like, how, where'd you get all this stuff at? Like, what? Because it was really expensive stuff. She was like all worried, and that's why Van Beek's saying, like, we have to let the parents know what's going on because, like, even my mom cried. She was like, what? Like, you didn't pay for any of this? I was like, no. Like, I didn't even, I was just giving it, and there's no obligation. You know, like, I do work for them now, but I didn't have to. You know what I mean? There's no obligation. So that was a funny story. That was crazy. Like, yeah, and like you said. Like I said, I practice video editing on like some free softwares. He mentioned Filmora. There's like OpenShot and like some smaller, not as good ones. And there's DaVinci Resolve, which for Mike or anyone who wants to video edit for free and they lose their suite, DaVinci Resolve is like literally on par with this, but it's free. So it's like amazing software. It's very heavy to run though. Like I edit on a PC now. I don't even edit on laptops. But we're on Premiere Pro, which I started learning like right as I got my laptop. I think I started to pay for it because I worked at a gas station or something. So who has used or at least like dabbled with Premiere Pro? And will anyone raise their hands? Kind of one. Nice. Does it look scary when you open it up?
It did. It took about a month for me to like not scream at this.
Yeah, exactly. It's like scary. Like you open it up and you're like, what's going on? So my purpose here today is I just want to kind of go through the basic stuff of Premiere Pro and like show you everything about it, what everything is. And if you have questions as we go, like please ask. Because I'm going to start with very basic stuff. So like we'll keep going and going. If you have like a random question, like feel free to ask and then I'll explain it. Because I know it might get boring, but maybe it won't because you might not know it, right? We're all different skill levels. So when you open Premiere Pro, and you guys can do it if you want, like with me if you have it downloaded. You open Premiere Pro, you get this pane, right? And I also want to emphasize before I get going, I forgot to emphasize, is that I learned everything by, like you don't need a course. You know, I didn't go to film school. I didn't do anything. No one taught me Premiere Pro. I learned it on myself. On YouTube. And that's not like oh, I'm so good. It's all of you guys, if you want to do anything, you can do it by going online and teaching yourself. It's so like, it takes a lot of effort and work and you have to keep like searching up new things and how to do it. But I'm serious, any skill you want to do, you don't necessarily need to learn how to do it by like taking a course or paying for a course. Like you can learn it for free. And that's a big thing. So it's like I learned something for free that I now do for a career, right? So, and you guys can do that too. So don't feel like you're boxed in with having to, you know, like take this or learn this, or when you could just do it yourself or pursue anything you want. So yeah, when you first open Premiere Pro, you're greeted with this screen. But all you need to know is that it shows your recent projects down here, shows new project here, and this is what you're going to click on most of the time is new project. And then you're going to get this pane right here. So this is where you name it and the location of it. And right, you're all young, so you guys get tech, right? Super easy. I'm just going to name this one Project Idea Center. And I'm just going to pick where I want it. Has anyone lost files before? Like you download something, you don't know where the frig it is? I'm sure all of you guys have done that. And I do it all the time. So I'm just going to put this because this isn't my computer. I'm just going to put it in videos. I'm going to just select that folder. And it's going to save that project along with the autosave feature in there. Now you know where it is, right? You can go in your files and go to videos and it'll be saved there. All this stuff you don't really need to worry about. It's just like telling you what your renderer is, like what are you using to render based on what you have installed and all these formats. You don't even have to worry. You'll never have to worry about those because when you drag in video to Adobe, it'll like automatically adjust to what you're putting in. So I would just hit OK. You're going to be greeted with the screen of death. Oh, wow, this layout's funny. No, I'm joking. Yeah, so normally it'll look like, it will go to the editing one. But normally you open it up and it'll look like this. Who thinks this is scary other than you, Mike, because you edit videos? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Anyone else? Or are you just like, it's whatever, I don't give a dump? Yeah, it kind of, you know what I mean though, when you're like, oh, I don't know what's going on, right? All the panes and stuff. The thing with Adobe Premiere Pro is that it's all customizable. So I can like completely remove this section, I can make it bigger, I can make my timeline longer, like it's all customizable. And you can remove windows and you can go here and add as many windows that you want. But what Premiere Pro does is it gives you those options at the top are like different layouts. Preset layouts, and I've used them to this day. So you have your editing, so it's like that layout's best for editing. This one's best for color correction. This one's best for adding effects, best for adding audio, etc., etc. But I'm just gonna stick into the editing one because that's the easiest one for me. So when you're in Premiere Pro, you kind of have like, normally it's 4 windows. Anyone guess what this one does right here, this section here? Yes, okay, yeah, you were close. This is kind of like a preview, not of your timeline. So right here, it's not a preview of your timeline. Down here is where you put your clips, like you were saying. So if you have any video, you're gonna drag any raw clips and audio into here. That's where you drag it. That's the first thing you do, is drag all your video in there. So I have my hard drive in here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is put in some clips here. Let's go. Okay, we're gonna copy it into there. So I just drag and drop. That's all I do. So any video you have, if you have raw, just go find it and drag and drop. You can also go file, like import or whatever, but that's what takes too long, right? Just drag and drop it. It was really quick. But whenever you drop like raw footage in, you're gonna see a blue bar down here and it's gonna like fill up. It happened, but it just happened so fast because it's not raw, this is an edited video. Cool, so now we have a clip in here. And like I was saying, this pane is to preview something before we drag it into our timeline. So you kind of have where you import audio and video, previewing it and like picking out which part you want. Your main timeline, which is where you're gonna be editing, right? Where you're gonna be cutting and snipping and adding stuff. And then a preview of your timeline, right? And then your toolbar right here. So pretty basic. That all makes sense, right? Everyone kind of understands like the timeline and yeah, okay, cool. Let's say we have this cool clip right here, and this is already an edited video, but that's fine. It will do the purpose. So I'm gonna drag it into here, into our timeline. Now normally someone might say, you know, you have to make a sequence first, because if you notice the timeline says no sequence, that's like the quality of the video. So you can go like new item, and then you can do sequence and like do like 1080p by 720. But Premiere Pro is smart enough to recognize what it is and just adjust and create a new sequence for you so that you don't have to. There's 2 different parts of your timeline, your video, which is these 3 tracks, and you can add an unlimited amount of tracks. You can right click on a track and add a track above it. And same with audio, so you have 3 audio tracks. So audio and video will always be separate. Like they would be linked, but it can't go above here. So audio's on the bottom, video's on the top, and then space bar is hitting play, and you go from there. Ooh. So now that I've kind of explained that, I'm gonna go over the tools bar, because we know how to put in video and audio, and you can drag an audio in here too. I'll just show you. Okay, let's drag in a random non-copyrighted corporate song. Do we all like that? Is that our jam, right? I think I do have that, but let's just, how's this one sound? Oh, that's the corporate beat I wanted, you know what I'm saying? And we're gonna drag it in, just to show you that you can drag an audio in there. So yeah, so that's what audio looks like when you drag it in, and you can preview it, just like you can video, and it'll show you all that. You can skim through here, and then if you want, you can set in and out points. Like let's say you don't want this end part of the song. You just want like from here to maybe here, you can hit O. And then when you drag it out, it'll just drag out that part. It won't drag the whole thing. So now we have music, which we don't really need because this video already has music, but it just shows you the purpose. So now we know how to preview, we import stuff, preview stuff, put it in our timeline, and we know that that's a preview of our timeline. Now let's go over the tools.
So the bottom right is kind of the finished product. Like all the other stuff is preview windows.
Yeah.
The bottom right is like the thing you've built.
Yeah, this is what you're building. Your timeline is what you're gonna build and what it's gonna look like at the end, and that's what this window shows you. I find you'll use this most of the time, because most of the time you'll take in raw footage and you'll just drag it into your timeline and put it in order, right? You're not gonna drag it in there first, you don't need to. But I find I use this if I'm adding in sound effects or something, because if you have a sound effect, it's not gonna, you might have a clip, because the way sound effects work is it might be like, let's say it's a Boeing sound effect. There might be like 4 different Boeings in one MP3. So then you drag it in there, and then like I just did, I can set my in and out and drag like one of those. If you want to just look at a clip, like, oh, I forgot what's in this 5-minute clip, you can watch it without like messing up your timeline. So, but this is like Van Beek said, this is your masterpiece. This is your content that you're building. But let's just look at the tools. So the first one's the selection tool. So this is obviously just dragging around your stuff. You can even zoom in and out of your timeline by going like this, using the bar on the bottom. And you can drag your audio around. You can even shorten parts of the video. Like let's say you don't want, you can trim it really easy, really quick. Control Z, what does Control Z do? Undo, yes sir. There we go. And the only other tools that you guys are actually gonna need to use, this one right here, Razor, This is what any basic video editor is going to be using, is your razor. So let's say you're watching.
What if all students had access to the most creative materials, technology, and opportunities?
And you're like, oh, I don't like the sound of his voice. I'm going to cut that out. Right? Not really, but you're like, oh, I don't like that. Razor tool. Let's say you don't like from this part to this part. Razor, and then just go back to your selection tool and click on it, right click on it, and just cut it out. Or you can click on it and hit delete, the delete key. But that's the way that I just do it. So when you first start editing a video, this is what you're going to do. You're going to do this process. You're going to continue to watch, right? And you're going to be like, oh, I don't like this part. Get rid of this, right? Maybe there's some blank space. You know what? Everyone know what a jump cut is? Favorite YouTuber, right? They get rid of, if they're breathing, they're like, hey guys, my name is Josh ThaSauce, and welcome to my challenge day. Like, you can cut out the breathing, right? You can cut out this, like you cut out the breathing, make it a jump cut. And then when you're done making a bunch of cuts, you might have like a bunch of cuts, right? You can imagine what it would look like, a bunch of different empty spaces. When you're done, you just click in the empty area and hit delete. And it'll like, and that's something that I didn't even know about. You can just go like that and hit delete, and then it'll like smush it back together for you. Believe it or not, I used to literally go like this. So imagine there's like 30 cuts here. I would go like, and drag all those. So like, yeah, see, so you always learn something new, but you can click in the empty space and hit delete. And that's kind of like the main thing that you'll be doing most likely, right? That kind of makes sense. You could all do that probably right now, right? You could all go in, put video in, put music in, listen, make some cuts, and then like smush it, right? That you guys feel confident that you could do that? So you kind of know the basic now premise of video editing, and I want to kind of emphasize, and oh yeah, I wanted to say before, you can also drag in pictures to there, to your project as well, and put them in your timeline, and it'll show up as purple. So you have your videos blue, your audio is green, and any images you use are like pinkish purple. But what I want to say kind of now is like the only other tool I would touch on is the text tool, which literally you hit it and then you can click somewhere and start typing. It kind of made an image type of thing, right? So text files are kind of like images or like graphics. So that's what an image would look like too. If you dragged an image in, it would be the purple one. What I kind of want to do now is kind of show you guys like little tips and little tricks like that what TV shows use and stuff use, because really that's video editing right there. Like if you can do this stuff, now it's just a matter of what little things can you do to make it better, or like what effect do you do, or how do you do the little details, and you have a vision in your head of what you want to happen on the screen, you just don't know how to do it, right? So that's the thing with video editing, is you're always learning, and it really is a creative thing. It really is a lot of brain power goes into video editing. Like I'll get tired, like I'll be editing and I'm like, oh my, why don't I want to sleep? Because you're like thinking, you have a vision, you're trying to execute on it. With every clip, here's an example, with every clip, you can click on it, and now if we go over here, so this is where this pane is now gonna actually matter. Let's say you made a bunch of cuts, right? Now they're all smushed together. Hit Effect Controls right here. This is where we get into some keyframes. That's my favorite thing. Basically what Effect Controls is here's how I explain it. It's gonna show you the properties of your file that you have selected. So I have this video file selected right here. It's now showing me the properties and the details of that. So where is it positioned at? How big is it? What's its rotation right now? All this stuff. What's its volume at? So if I drag this position around, what do you guys think is going to happen? No guesses? Your mind's going to be totally blown. Oh my. See that? Boom. So that's position, right? Easy. So you can drag it up and down. You're like, why would you want to do that? We'll explain. So I'm just going to undo that. Scale. What would scale do? Come on now.
Make it bigger or smaller.
I've seen that too, yes. Bigger or smaller, right? You can zoom in. Cool. In rotations, obviously going to rotate it around, and you have your volume and stuff down here. Now the reason I want you guys to know this is because there's these little things right here. See how it says toggle animation? That's where you're going to get into keyframe animating and like your video clips. So let's say you have a whole video and it's cut and it's like you talking. It's like 2 minutes and you're talking about your product, right? And it's a cut, jump cuts, whatever. There's little things that you can do to kind of enhance that. So let's just start with transitions. If you want to do a transition, down here where you drag in your clips and your raw stuff, You have media browser, libraries, info, but let's ignore those. Effects. This is something you'll use a lot too. Premiere Pro has a lot of built-in effects. You can even create your own. So let's say you go in here and you make your own animation out of keyframes. You can save it as an effect, so you can just drag it on later. There's also plenty of downloads that you can do for effects. And this is where I sometimes might lose people once we get into the keyframes. So if you have a question, like, let me know. So let's say I want to slide. And let's go, okay, cool. We have video transition, slide, band slide, center slide, or center split, push, slide. Let's just drag a slide on between these two clips. So if you ever want to use an effect, you literally just drag it over top, and you're going to notice you can put it in between them like this. And I kind of want to mute this right now because it gets annoying when I do that. So I'm going to mute it. But now it's going to slide. Now you're probably like, that's ugly and lame. It looks like Windows Movie Maker. That's because it does. So now that's where the effect controls come in. So when I did that, it now recognizes that I put a transition on it. So if I click on this transition, what is it going to show me? The properties of the transition, right? Just like it's going to show you the properties of a video. And now you can see that the transition starts here, at clip A, goes here. But if you go scroll down a little bit, you can actually add a border to it. You can increase the speed. So let's say we want to add a border. Let's do 10, and let's make it white. Let's just make it white. So you can go here and drag it to the white. And then let's also make it, so now look what happens. There's kind of a cool, nice white border there. It looks a little bit nicer, right? Now, but it's still slow. And I've used this transition all the time for TV shows. Now let's drag it with our select, let's go to our select tool. And we can even drag it. What do you guys think this will do if I go like this? Yeah, exactly. Simple, makes it quicker. So now, it's way faster. Let's make it even quicker, because I like quick, snappy stuff. Boom. So imagine you had that, and then you put motion blur on it or something, or maybe you had a sound effect of like, whoosh, and you added that under. It kind of looks a bit more professional now, does it not? That's why I'm trying to tell you guys, it's like, envision what you want and you can do it, right? So like, there's so many, that's why I don't want to talk too much about this or do too much stuff, because then you'd be like, holy, what's going on? You can always put in transitions like that. You can just search up a basic one, drag it on, shorten it, boom, you're good, right? That's easy. But you still might not necessarily understand how keyframes work, right? So now if I go back to my effect controls, when I do a keyframe, so let me just get one clip. I'm going to get rid of the rest of this just so I'm focusing on a small little thing here. When I'm in the keyframes, if I hit toggle animation on here, look what's going to happen. Boom. Turns blue to a little diamond. That's one keyframe. And each keyframe can happen on one frame. So you're like, why does this matter? What do you think happens if I put a keyframe right here on scale? Let's do scale. I add a keyframe at the beginning, right? Now I'm going to go to the end of my clip, which you can do that very easily by hitting the down arrow. What if I zoom in a little bit? And then, oh, what just happened? Another keyframe got added. What's that going to do? See, it is a little bit tricky. I just created an animation. So now, if I hit play, I might grab a raw clip because it's hard to notice. But what it's doing, it's slowly zooming in. You didn't notice it because that's already edited. So let me get you guys a new clip, and I'm going to do that again. We go to the end of scale. We're going to zoom it in. And now what happens? Right? Simple. So I wanted to emphasize this, so it makes sense, right? It's going to slowly zoom in based on your keyframes, right? I want you to go watch any YouTube video, none of you watch the news, but YouTube something or something, mainly YouTuber. This is crazy. They will do this most slightest zoom. They will do this same thing I just did, but they'll make the keyframe like 105, so it's only zooming in a little bit. So look, you'll barely notice it. Let's see if we can notice it. It's slowly zooming in, but you see it though? Look at, you can barely notice it, but it's slowly zooming in. The reason they do that, that literally, and I do it in my videos, that literally is going to engage your audience more and keep you watching more than if you leave it not moving. Believe it or not. Believe it or not, that simple thing. So if you're doing, let's say you guys are doing a pitch and you're talking about your product on a video, let's say you cut, or every other cut, you might have like a slow zoom as you're talking that someone might not even notice, but like they will notice because they're going to be more engaged. So that's like a little tip there with how so that kind of shows you how keyframes work and how this works. So let's do the same thing for the position, right? Let's say we don't want to keyframe the scale, but we want to zoom in on this is Jacob here. What happens if I keyframe the position? Can you guys guess what's going to happen? If I keyframe here, go to the end of the clip and keyframe over here, what's going to happen? Somebody tell me.
Is it going to like zoom diagonally kind of?
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to move sideways, right? So now it's hard to imagine. This is where I don't want to lose you. You could build anything with keyframes. You could do something crazy. You could do you could have the first keyframe here, and then you could do like a fast zoom. Like you could put a keyframe here on your scale, right? You want to scale at the start, and then you want to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames ahead. You want to instantly scale to his face for fun or something like that. And then after that, you might want it you might want to add a keyframe on position and then drag it sideways at the end of the clip. Now watch, it's not going to look that amazing because I didn't put that much effort into it, but it's going to yeet in on his face and then slowly move. But do you guys get that concept of how like you're going to start to build animations and build what you want it to look like? Yeah?
So say you'd have to like time them right or something to like zoom in, but also go like go into a corner kind of deal?
Yeah. So and it's timing. That's exactly why in the effect controls you have like all your frames and your time here, because it's all about like where are you placing the keyframe, what's it doing. You want it to fast zoom and then fade. What do you want it to do, right? But that's why I didn't want to go too deep into it, because it's a hard thing to wrap your head around. But doing the basic ones, at least you'll kind of get a concept for it. But it's basically building animations through keyframing. Another simple one I'll show you, because like you said, based on timing, I'm going to get rid of all these keyframes. And you can actually untoggle this, and it'll delete all your keyframes. So I'm going to untoggle those. Let's say this clip is centered, even though it's not. I'm just going to center it. And like I said, if there's no toggle animation on, you can do whatever you want with this and make it look like what you want, right? Because there's no keyframe. It's not going to do no animation or nothing because you didn't turn it on. But let's say we want this clip to fade in. You could search up in the effects, dip to black, which is going to start black and fade in. Or you could even go to the opacity, right? And you can toggle animation. And you guys could probably guess, if I have the first keyframe at 0 opacity, and then go forward 15 frames and set it to 100 again, what's going to happen, right? It's going to fade in.
You could, so you can fade from black. Can you fade from like another image or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. So if you had 2 images overlapping, right? Like you had like an image, and then you had it on top of like your video, then you would just fade the opacity out on the top image, but then because your video is under it, right, it's going to appear. So I can even do that for you right now. Let me get an image for you here. Look, yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. And that's what I like. You're thinking about what you want to do. How do I do that, right? That's perfect. So let's get an image. Okay, it's a girl's hand using a servo motor, which is like a coding thing. You guys don't need to know that. Whole point is we have this image, right? And you want to fade out from the image. Well, just line it up, right? And then go to your image, and you can maybe set a keyframe for opacity right here, and it's 100, and then set it for 0, right? And then it would fade back to your thing. Boom, just like that, right? So exactly, yeah, you could fade from any image you want. So now that we did some keyframe stuff, and you animate some stuff, let's say you do some fade outs, you do some fade ins, you do some zooms. For text, you're obviously going to want to put a title in your video of your product, right? So use the text tool. You can type in here. I'm just going to do be brilliant. Now, here's a big thing. This looks really lame, right? You can use the scale, make this text bigger, put it where you want it. But like you don't want your video looking like all whatever, because that's just like calibrate 2 or something dumb, right? It looks very boring. But what you can do is you can enhance that text and make it look kind of nice. So what I'm going to do for the text is go to our effect controls as per usual. And now you can see text right here. You can open this up. This is where you can change the font, all that type of stuff. So if we highlight this, let's change the font to something different. And you can download custom fonts too. But now it looks a little bit better, right? You can even go in here and you can put a background on it, which is a background of color. You can put a stroke on it. You can put shadow. So if I hit shadow, so now it's a little bit bigger. So you see there's a shadow on it now. So it looks a little bit nicer. There's now a shadow on your text. That looked better than the Calibre whatever font, right? Like your Word document font. Does anyone know what a stroke is? Yeah, a border, yeah. A stroke is a border. You go into your text, you add this on, and then you can make it red, let's say, and then you can increase the size of it. Let's do 10. But see, you can make that look nice. That doesn't look nice because I picked a terrible red, but you can make that look like a cool title, right? And then you can use keyframes. You can make it pop in from the side. You can make it pop in from the bottom, right? So that's kind of a cool way I teach people really quick how to enhance the look of their text, because if you don't, you're just going to use boring text. And let's say I might change that to a purple so it actually looks a little bit nicer. Kind of a lighter purple there. Kind of matches with our brand. That looks kind of nice, right? That kind of looks kind of, there's more effort put into that, right? So how was that? Did that kind of, is text okay? I know I'm kind of jumping through a lot of things at once. That's because you can do anything, right? It's really endless. Whatever you want to do, like if there's something you don't know how to do, I go on YouTube and I'm like, how do I get rid of this green screen on my video, right? And it will tell you, right? So simple as that. So once you know the basics, then it's a matter of what do you want? How do you want it to look like? If you don't know how to do that, search up how to do that. That's one of the most, I said it last time to the last semester, one of the most underrated skills in any job. And here's a job, this is not even a video editing course anymore. This is a career thing. If you don't know how to problem solve, literally people are not going to hire you because you're going to look, I don't want to be blunt. I might cut it out of the video, but you might look dumb. You know what I mean? If you're not willing to put effort in and figure it out yourself, then you won't make it as far. Same goes to video editing. If you don't know how to do a certain effect, Google it. Okay, make it, save it as a preset. Cool, and now I know how to do it. Do you all feel confident you could literally like drag music in here, drag clips in here, cut it, and then like make a little quick video? Nothing fancy, yeah?
My only thing is like where you get your files from for like the music and stuff.
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. So, when it comes to music and stuff, that's an iffy territory because you're gonna run into copyright and stuff, right? What I use, but you have to pay for it, is Storyblocks and Artlist. You ever heard of Artlist? If you don't care about copyright, you can go on any song on YouTube and you can do the classic, I shouldn't say ghetto, that's a weird word, the classic YouTube to MP3 converter, right? You can do that classic thing and convert it and rip it and put it right in, right? But then if it's a copyrighted song and you upload it to YouTube or you're promoting it, if you were big enough, you got to stop doing that, right? If you got to a point where you're like, oh, I can't mess with copyright, you shouldn't do that, but that's a way you can do it. And one of the big, like Kevin MacLeod, that's an artist, he has a bunch of songs on YouTube, like they're all free. You know what I mean? You could rip his songs from YouTube and they're all free. You can even go to the YouTube studio. Is there a YouTube channel logged in here? There is. So you can go, if you have a YouTube channel, you can go to the YouTube studio in the back, and you can go to audio library, and all these songs are free too, and sound effects. So you can filter by genre. Maybe you want children's, no, you want cinematic, you want classic, rap, hip hop, dance, electronic, country, folk. You can apply, and it'll show you. And these are all free. And you just hit download, and it'll download an MP3. Also, there's YouTube channels that actually upload like non-copyrighted music. So NCS, they're super big. If you illegally download, or not illegally, like just rip it, or you can download from their link, any of these songs, you're not going to get copyrighted for. And they have like trap, hip hop, country, they have all different stuff. Anything from here, you could take anything from here and not get copyrighted. Same with this one. Any song you use from here, not copyrighted. So like you can just click their download links and download their stuff. Don't have to pay. It's like an easier solution than you think, right? Like it just search up non-copyright, whatever, and then download it. Any other question like that or any effect or anything like that?
Are you able to separate the audio and the video?
Yeah, of course. So like, let's say you have this video right here of this guy talking. I'll turn it up, why not? And he's like, you can just unlink this right here with the linked selection, boom, move it away. Or even delete it. But if it's linked, it'll like stay linked, it'll delete both. So yeah. Yeah.
So how do they do like the cams in the corner of YouTube videos, you know?
Oh yeah, face cam. Yeah. Okay, sweet. Layers. That's a big thing in images, video. Let's say you want to do a face cam. All a face cam is one clip. Let's say it's this one here. Let's take this one. This is our face cam. We're going to scale it down, right? This is what I mean. All you got to know is realize how the tools work, and then you can do anything you want. Let's scale it down. This is my face cam footage. I'm going to drag the position right to the corner, or let's go up top, right? Cool. Now let's get another clip of our game or our PC screen, whatever we're using to react to, and let's drag that. This is our game or trailer underneath it, right? And now look what you already have. You already kind of have a face cam right there, right? And you would do a third layer. Can you guess what that third layer would be? An image, right? You go in GIMP or whatever, you make a custom border, like a rectangle, and you slap it right underneath that. So right in between your game or your PC. But let's say it's this image right here. And then all you would do is scale this down and put it under the clip, right? So it's kind of like, and then you drag it, you kind of line it up best you can. I know it's really ugly because I'm using random photos and stuff, but see, then you have a border on it. So if you had a plain white border, like a plain white rectangle, put it right in, and that's all face cam is. And then they drag it throughout the whole thing. So then you would just, I'll answer your thing. You just drag it like all the way through the whole thing.
So even though you've got the video all squared away in the corner, can you still like edit it and zoom in on his face and still even like maybe do transitions or something like on that video?
Yeah, for sure. So let's just say you have this he's watching a trailer, right? And he's watching. Wow, there's cool music, he's watching it. And then he's like, boom, and then he like pauses it to react, to say something. All you would do, right, is you would cut right here, cut, my magnetic thing's on, cut, and then when he's done saying his point, let's say he's saying, oh, this is so funny. When he's done saying his point, you would cut right here, and then you would just take the face cam and just make it big because he's reacting to the thing. So it's like, okay, he's reacting to it, he's watching it, and then he wants to comment on something. So then you cut to that, right? So it's a cut at the start, a cut at the end, and then just make that one bigger. I should have almost recorded my own face cam so I could have made more sense. You know what I mean? So it would have looked nicer, but you get it though, right? Like it's just cut at the start, cut at the end of where you want it, and then you want that section to be just his face, just make his face bigger. Right, we have all these clips, right? They're all lined up. This is our main raw footage, our main face cam footage. This is all gonna look like a face cam. So if you just cut just from this section to this section, everything behind that's not gonna get affected, right? This is still gonna stay the same, but in here, this is gonna get bigger, right?
Okay, I see what
You see what I'm saying now? Yeah, exactly.
So they're all like unlinked right now, but if you link them up, right, would that be like an end thing that you do, or can you link them all together so you can make the edits more smooth, or does that matter?
I would say just don't link them. Like linking, you only want to link if like let's say you had a separate audio from a separate mic, and you like we're doing here, we're clapping, we're syncing this mic with these cameras, right? Let's say I don't want to use that audio, so when I sync them up, then I can mute the camera audio, leave this one here, and then link it so that when I drag it around, it'll move in the same way. So like, I wouldn't say, you don't need to link it for this, because then if you get into linking it, let's say we nest this whole thing. I'll show you what you mean. Nest. So you highlight all your clips, so all 4 of these, you right click, you hit nest. That's grouping it up, linking it, like you said. We link it, we're just gonna call it nest, boom, it's gonna do that. So now, if you want to make any changes to that, you have to double click into this nested sequence, and it'll open up its own timeline of where it actually all is put. I would say don't link them. I would pretty much say, but I showed you how to link it if you for some reason wanted to link some stuff together, right? And then I mean, like if you weren't planning on, let's say you had a 4K face cam, and you weren't planning on and like you weren't gonna zoom in that much, but you still wanted to, but you don't wanna cut all these 4 things at the same time, yeah, for sure, you could link it, right? You could nest it up, and because it's 4K, and you're not gonna lose quality, you could be like, okay, cool, from here to here I want to zoom in, and you could just zoom in this nested sequence, right? You could just go like this, and then zoom right into the face cam, if you wanted, right? So it would make it a little bit easier. But you might, if you're not filming in 4K, right, you'd lose pixels because you're doing that, because it's not the raw, so you're zooming right in.
Can you make those, can you like save them? So like say, I guess, maybe it's a cut scene or you build a type of transition or something like that and you save it as an S. Can you like export that and save it? So like if I build a transition or some kind of sound effect or whatever, can I save them and export them out so I can use them again later?
Yeah, so if you make a transition with audio, so you can nest like a bunch of audio, right? The thing with nest is it won't work for like a bunch of audio at once. Like I'm pretty sure if you nest this, it might not work. Maybe it will. I don't do that. Yeah, it won't let you nest audio. So that's one thing. But all you would do though, let's say you have a bunch of clips, you would put your sound effects underneath that. You don't even have to nest it. You could just set your in and out points, because we didn't even get into exporting yet. You could just set in, I, and then O, right? And all your sound effects are here, all your music is there, and then just render it. And then it's gonna mush it together, right? You're just gonna render that. You don't even have to nest it. You're just gonna export it. Does that kind of make sense? Like and maybe I'll export before we leave here so that you can kind of see that process. But then it's just gonna export as an MP4 file, right? Or a MOV file. And if you have anything that's green screen, that's transparent, like a transition, you might have something that like swipes and it's transparent. Always do MOV. You can just say I and O, file, export. This is when you're done your video, by the way. This is what you guys would do. If you're done your video completely, export media. And then this is where you pick the format. You'd go here, you can pick it, or you can pick a preset. This is what I would recommend doing. So always do, for the format, always do H.264. That's standard. That's standard. You can do H.265, but just do H.264. I can't explain what it is. It's a format. It's like the codecs for the video. For example, MXF OP1A. This show, I exported that in MXF OP1A. It's like cinematic format. Like I can't even preview it on my laptop when I hit render. But you'll always be able to preview H.264. So change the format to that. And then maybe set the preset to, you want high quality 1080p. Maybe you record it in 4K, but most likely you won't. Set the preset, boom. And then all this stuff, don't even worry about it, because you just set a preset. So it just automatically did all that for you. If you want, you can render at maximum depth and use maximum render quality, and that's just gonna make it look a little bit better. And then all you would do, if you're doing your transition, you would export. And then you have a single clip, like that's 10 seconds of a transition, right? Questions, I kind of like the little dives because then we can answer specific things, because that's what it's all about, right? Once you know the basics, it's just like, what do I want to accomplish and how do I do it? Similar to that, you want to accomplish the transition, how do I make this? You just build it and then export it. Simple, right? It's in, you don't even think about that, but normally the answer is simpler than you think. Once you get past the whole, I'm dragging in my clips and I'm cutting them, it gets a little bit confusing, right? Because it just takes practice and keep doing the same thing over and over again. But yeah.
So you said you could do it with like green screen. So I guess when you make one of those like little transitions or clips, so you can have it like set up so that it's like transparent back, and you can like have like effects in the front, and you can just drop that onto anything that's happening in an already existing clip.
Exactly. So yeah, exactly. You could make, and just so you know, like if you have a transition, this black screen, any empty space, is going to be transparent if exported as a MOV. Okay. So if you export it as an MOV file, which would you do in your render settings, that blank space will always be transparent. So you have a green screen right behind you, and you can do it with any color. They just say bright green because it's easier to like isolate. So you do bright green, make sure it's well lit. If you have any shadows, it's not going to be able to take that out. Right? Any shadows on a green screen, it will just like be black and weird because it can't take it out. But all you literally do, you just use a tool, an effect, which is called an Ultra key. I knew it. I have friggin' Jacob right here chilling. But so he wasn't that well lit, but I made it work though in the show, and it actually didn't work out too bad. So I'm just gonna drag him.
What did you record that with? Like the video?
This is recorded on a phone
Okay.
and exported in 4K and is airing on Bell.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? People think they need all the fancy stuff and whatever, and I'm like, you don't. You know what I mean? Like, let's say you have this guy here, and we drag him out. But he's here. So now what we would do, there's some shadow and stuff, but that's fine. Let's go to the effects, and we're going to type in Ultra Key. And it's going to be right here. We're going to drag it on our clip, right? Very straightforward. And I just Googled how to do this, right? I didn't like find it out myself. Key color, little drop tool, and go click on the green. Boom. That's all you do. But see what I mean by the shadows, how it's a little bit iffy there? So what I did was I went into like this matte cleanup and I adjusted all these, the soft, whatever, all this stuff, midpoint contrast. So that clip was used in the show. So yeah, I just keyed him in a friggin' green screen area.
So how did you add that background in?
Just underneath. Yep, exactly, just underneath it. So that's where the layers come in, right? So it's like, you would just drag like this image, for example, underneath. And then boom. And then make it bigger. And then there it is.
Only other thing I could think of, well, Keegan mentioned it, but can you edit a live stream kind of thing? Like your cam, you can move it around and stuff, obviously, on a live stream. But
Yeah.
I don't know if you've messed around with that at all.
Yeah, so no, I've live streamed before. When you have a live stream, you can record the live stream, right? You can record it as you're live streaming, you hit record. It's going to export as like an MKV or MP4. In that case, that's just one file. You can't mess with the separate entities. So you can't, but I think like that's a thing. You'd have to do research. I'm sure there's a software out there like a plugin for OBS that'll export everything separately. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure there probably is. I just wouldn't know yet, right? You'd have to go and like be like, how do I do this? But if you're just recording, it's gonna mush it all into one, right? Same for if we export this. If we export this, it's gonna mush it all into one. We've worked with Outreach Productions, and I'll show you an example. They had this audio mixer that they used to record audio with. And it's super cool. This is where some of the tech, you might need more tech, but they have an audio mixer. And basically what it does is it allows them to record 4 things at once, similar to a stream, right? You have a camera and they're all separate. So we had 4 mics rolling on 4 different people, similar to a stream. You have a mic and a camera. And they had a like, I don't even know what it's called. It was this fancy, expensive thing. And it allowed you to record and export 4 at once. So those are 4 separate mics in one file. But that's because they have this like device. You know what I mean? I don't even know what it's called. But it's like, when I received that, my mind was blown. I was like, oh my. And then you can separate those, right? You can unlink them all and put them wherever you want, like, or you can keep them in the same space. No, I appreciate you guys listening to me. I feel like, hopefully it's not too confusing. Like, did you learn something? Right? Yeah, like you kind of learned how Facecam works, all that stuff. So.
All right, let's hear it for Josh ThaSauce Lively.
Yeah, thanks guys.